By bringing this out for today's shooter, this isn't about bringing it back for the collector market. There's many people, I don't want this Python to be just for the affluents. This Python is meant to be shot. This Python is the best double action revolver we've produced, you know, in terms of this platform ever. And so we're very happy with the way it turned out. We're happy with the action on the product. But more importantly, we're really happy that it's going to be an opportunity for more shooters to get involved with the shooting sports and really get a chance to shoot the legendary Python.
We knew going into this that because it was so important to our company and our brand, that we really had to make sure we just X-ringed it on the first try. We knew we weren't going to get a second chance at a Python, or we couldn't come out with something that was maybe, you know, 85% and hope to refine it later. We really just had to knock it out of the park on the first run. If you kind of look up here at the front sight, you're going to notice one of the things we took from the King Cobra and the Cobra, which we launched the last 2 years, the interchangeable front sight. So we've got a little hex screw in here. It's a no gunsmith install of the front sight of your choice. We've got a fiber optic, we've got a brass bead, and we've got a tritium night sight. Going back to the rear of the gun, we've got an updated rear adjustable target sight. We learned a couple lessons on the King Cobra target, and we're able to apply this to the Python. And really it has to do with kind of the way the sight is installed into the top of the frame here, the top strap of the frame. We were able to actually increase by 30% the amount of material up here in the top of the frame by cutting this sight differently and redesigning this sight. And what that really gives you is it gives you a much stronger frame. So you've got that 30% more material up here combined with kind of the modern stainless steel alloys that we have today versus the older stainless Pythons of kind of yesterday. So much stronger frame on this Python, again, in part to that sight and part to the materials that it's made out of.
What impressed me on shooting it was the difference between 38 Special and 357 Magnum ammunition was not much at all. Normally, in a revolver this size, when you start shooting Magnums, you get quite a bit more muzzle flip. It hits your hand pretty hard. There's something about this grip and the way it feels to where this gun just is mild with 357s. I was very impressed with that.
So the barrel, like the Cobra and the King Cobra, it's just a one-piece barrel. We don't use a sleeve or anything like that. They do have a target crown that's been recessed in order to prevent damage to the crown, but all of these are one-piece barrels. In particular, on the Python, these are bar stock one-piece barrels, and then we go ahead and fit those to the frame. And last but not least, really the action is where this thing kind of shines through. Really, it's a completely new designed action, and as part of that, we were able to keep the leaf spring of the old Python, but update it in a couple little ways with a link connecting it to the hammer, for instance, to prevent sort of the binding that you get on some of the old ones, but also reduce the number of parts in the action. The result is a much more consistent trigger.
We're excited about the platform. We have tremendous opportunity to grow this business, and at an MSRP of $14.99, that is a tremendous value for the consumer. And you're not having to look in a collector market for Pythons that are costing $3, $4, and more thousands of dollars. It's a really an affordable product and one of the better values probably in the firearms business today.
You know, Colt reintroducing the Python revolver, it's exciting for a few reasons. One, I love the fact that they kept it in the same chambering and the same size. It's still in that very versatile 357 mag, 38 special chambering. Also, it's still a medium frame revolver, a kind of a service size revolver. So you've got that heft that helps mitigate the recoil. It's a very cool design, and it's one of the reasons that the Python is maybe the most popular and most iconic of the classic Colt snake guns. Also, they made some upgrades to it. That trigger is excellent. And the sights being adjustable and interchangeable, it makes it a great option whether you're taking it to the range for plinking or taking it out in the woods for hunting.
Pistol caliber carbines are really enjoying a renaissance of sorts right now, particularly in the competitive shooting sports. And the gun we have here is an example that really takes advantage of that trend. This is the Rock River R9 competition. Now, as you may have guessed from both the name of the gun and the magazine sticking out the bottom of it, this gun is chambered for 9mm Luger, and it does so using Glock pattern magazines. A traditional blowback, the R9 Competition features an extruded aluminum upper over a billet aluminum lower receiver with an integral trigger guard and a flared magazine well machined into it for easy magazine insertion. Our rifle came with one magazine, this clear 17-rounder from Elite Tactical Systems Group. However, there are higher capacity magazines available and the gun would be compatible with them. The magazine release button on this gun is a little bit different than what you might be familiar with if you typically run 223 Remington ARs, but they operate in the exact same way. Meanwhile, all the other controls are in their standard positions for the AR platform. We have a right-hand only safety selector above the pistol grip, a bolt release lever on the left side of the lower, and a charging handle at the rear of the upper. The R9 Competition makes use of a 16-inch chrome moly barrel, which comes from the factory with what the company calls its mini break. A pretty effective device in my experience. It is threaded 1/2 by 36 TPI, so it can be removed and replaced at the shooter's discretion. Protecting the hand from the barrel is a free-floating handguard with M-LOK compatible slots at the 3, 6, and 9 positions, as well as a couple more on the 5 and 7 to go with a few inches of pick rail at the 12 o'clock position. Now this is a very soft shooting gun, even for a 9mm, and part of that is due to a uniquely designed buffer system that actually telescopes a little bit to absorb some of the recoil before it reaches your shoulder. This assembly is housed within a standard carbine-style receiver extension to which the 6-position adjustable buttstock has been attached. And rounding out the furniture on this gun is a Hogue overmolded pistol grip that really allows for solid but comfortable purchase on the gun. Another nice feature on this carbine is a nylon tip screw that can be used to adjust the tension between the two receivers, removing any slop or play between them. Access to the screw does, however, require the removal of the pistol grip. This gun also comes from the factory with a pretty nice 2-stage trigger. On this gun, it broke pretty consistently and crisply, just shy of 4 pounds of pull. All in all, between its controllability, its sub 7-pound weight, this is a pistol caliber carbine that would not only excel in a competition use, but also in a home defense scenario as well.
For more reviews of firearms and shooting gear, check out the latest edition of American Rifleman the magazine. Bill Ruger had a great sense of what American shooters were looking for, and one of those guns was an American-made over-under. He called it the Ruger Red Label.
Well, John Browning with the superposed proved just after the conclusion, essentially, of the Depression, that Americans had an interest in a stacked barrel gun. A stacked barrel gun provided some advantages. You had one sighting plane. You had the vertical alignment, i.e. a centralized point of recoil along the axis of the gun. There were reasons for a stacked barrel gun. There were reasons to like the over-under, especially for trap and skeet shooters. So Americans wanted an over-under, and the superposed was a beautiful gun, but it was an expensive gun for the average guy to buy in 1931. So in 1977, Ruger, probably then at the height of its work in investment casting parts for firearms, decided to enter the over-under market with a gun called the Red Label.
When it came to firearms design, manufacture, and sales, there was little that escaped Bill Ruger's eye. He was really involved and interested and curious about every facet of the firearms industry. And in the 1970s, he thought, as most folks would have if they were to step back and take an assessment of the American gun market, to get into the upper echelon of sporting clays, trap, skeet, there seemed to be a real need for a wonderful over and under that wasn't priced to European standards.
Bill Ruger wanted an everyman's bird gun, and he really did succeed with the 20 gauge. We reviewed the first one here in August of 1978, and we liked the gun quite a lot. As a matter of fact, declaring it safer than most over-unders. It had rebounding hammers. The odds of a double happening were mechanically impossible. It had some nice features. The safety and barrel selector were mounted on the tang, very easy to operate and manipulate. But it was the lines of the gun that I think that appealed to Bill Ruger. It looked very much sort of like the English Boss, the prototypical over-under in its lines. And those 20 gauge guns, if you get a chance to shoot them, they shoot very well. They pattern very well in our early tests. And the gun was priced affordably at that time for $480. In 1982, Ruger brought out the 12 gauge version of the gun. And the 12 gauge, of course, was the most popular because of the most popular chambering. But when they went from the 20 to 12, I think they lost something. I was of the opinion that on the 12 gauge Rugers anyway, there's two kinds of people that they fit and people that they don't. And I was one of those who the Ruger Red Label just simply did not point where I looked.